welcome again to American Senior. I'm Kerry Glusevich. Well, baseball's in the air, America's favorite pastime. We'll be joined today by Gary Hall, who is the author of a terrific new book, Baseball Legends and Legacies. And also we'll be joined by Tito Fuentes, former star second baseman for the San Francisco Giants. So stay tuned, grab some peanuts and Cracker Jack, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to American Senior today. I'm Kerry Glusevich, and as you can see, we're at the ballpark. We're going to be welcoming in a moment Tito Fuentes, former star second baseman for the San Francisco Giants, and also Gary Hall, who has a fantastic new book. It's called Baseball Legends and Legacies. And first of all, welcome Tito to American Senior.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you. And Gary.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, great, guys. In the book, there are 25 chapters dedicated to some of these great major leaguers, primarily ball players, but there are all a couple of announcers, and also 10 of them are Hall of Famers. So first of all, I want to ask you, Gary, what motivated you to write the book?
Well, a couple things. For one, Tito Fuentes and Bobby Bonds were inspirations in my life, and they mentored me in many ways, and I wanted to document their stories, and there was a lot of other ball players that touched my lives as well. And so what I wanted to do was protect the legacies and the history of the game.
Very good. And in, I guess, getting the ball players to do their inside stories, that must have been kind of a task.
It was unbelievable. First of all, it was an honor because a lot of times they invited me into their homes, and they shared personal accounts that they had not shared before, and so I felt privileged that they trusted me in that perspective.
I know there are many highlights in the book, Gary, but what are a couple that come to mind that are either very funny or surprising or both?
For instance, like how many stitches on a baseball? Something that comes to mind is Casey Stengel. Once they asked him, when he took over the New York Mets in 1962, they asked him, they said, Casey, in your opinion, what does it take to be a successful manager? And he said, well, in my opinion, it's important to take the 5 guys that you know that don't like you and keep them completely away from the 4 that haven't made up their mind.
Fantastic. Tito, I have one question first for you.
I got
since you're an announcer and actually an analyst for the Giants currently, can I call you for some tickets?
For the Giants, well, this weekend we're going to have Boston Red Sox, and then the Dodgers come Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So those tickets are sold out. So okay. I can give you some when Washington, Pittsburgh come in town, those things.
In other words, one of the seller teams, right?
Yes, yeah.
Tito, I have something actually to ask you. You being Cuban, how did you first come to America, and have you been able to come back and forth to Cuba since the changeover with Castro?
Well, I came, remember that movie by Eddie Murphy?
Yes.
Welcome to America. That's what I came.
Okay.
It's just a joke.
I know.
Okay. No.
Keep your day job. Anyway.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I came because in '62, the Giants scouted me there, and they offered me a contract, and I signed. It wasn't that much money, but all I wanted to do is play baseball, so I came to the United States. I never went back.
Now, that was when the Giants were still playing at Seal Stadium, correct?
No.
Oh.
No, the Giants moved to, in 1960, they moved to Candlestick.
Okay.
So I came in '62.
You also hold a record, or you did until many years later, for the highest fielding percentage in baseball. And what was that?
Well, that was in 1972, 73. And the thing I like about that record, I broke it on my idol, which is Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson played for the Dodgers, which was my favorite team, and also he played second baseman. He's no doubt he was black. So all those 3 criteria made me like him so much, and I broke his record with 6 errors in 900 some chances. So that gave me the percentage of 993 or 995, one of those 2.
That's an amazing story. Gary, back to you. Of all of the people in the book, many of them are Hall of Famers.
Yes.
What about Orlando Cepeda? He was one of my favorite ball players. What first comes to mind when you think of the baby bull?
Unbelievable clutch hitter, probably the finest clutch hitter I ever witnessed. One other thing I'd like to mention, Kerry, is that when Tito was talking about the record that he broke with Jackie Robinson and so forth, a lot of folks may not remember, but what made Tito so exceptional was he was an excellent infielder, second baseman, for sure. But he covered more ground than anyone else in the National or American League. So he had, not only did he have more opportunities, but he covered more ground, which made the chances more difficult.
Now keep in mind, and by the way, we're here speaking today with Gary Hall, author of the fantastic new book, Baseball, Legends and Legacies. Gary, hold up the book, please.
This is the cover of the Baseball, Legends and Legacies right here. And this book was just came out this week, a matter of fact.
Yeah,
okay.
And we have 24 different chapters, as you had mentioned before, and there's 10 Hall of Famers. And of course, Orlando Cepeda, one of our dear friends, the baby bull, he is one of the features without question.
But what I call the book, actually, it is 24 books in one, because each player that are involved here, no, I don't say player, that's a personality, because we got here announcers, we got umpires, Hall of Famers too, and they give the version of what they saw, things that you never hear before. So I call it 24 books in one.
What's amazing about the book, Baseball, Legends and Legacies, Gary, is that most baseball players are actually quite private. They want their talents to be shown on the field. So it must have been quite difficult, even though you know a lot of the players.
You know, Kerry, to be honest with you, that was one of the real shocks and surprises, and I think a lot of it had to do with, I've been around the game and a lot of the players for 40 years or so, but also because of my relationship with Tito and Orlando Cepeda. They knew that there was a real trust factor in there, so therefore I think it alleviated a lot of concerns that may have existed with someone else.
I have to ask you, and most of his career, Al Kaline was known for being with the Detroit Tigers, but he is amazing. And tell us a story or two about Al Kaline.
Well, a couple things about Al Kaline. We both laugh because what a character he is. Yeah. But
and he seemed low-key on the field.
Very quiet.
Unbelievably low-key. As a matter of fact, Tito was telling me just the other night about how low-key he was because Tito actually played for 1 year with the Tigers. But one thing that is often overlooked with Mr. Kaline, or Mr. Tiger as they call him around Detroit, is that he had a dubious honor of throwing out 2 players in the same inning from right field at home plate. So that's incredible.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. 2 guys would run on him in the same inning trying to score. That's what's unbelievable.
And he also, how many times did he win the American League batting championship?
He won it his rookie year. And he was absolutely incredible. Al Kaline hit 399 home runs, and as I had mentioned, you know, he's Mr. Tiger.
Let's talk a moment for the inspiration for the book, as you mentioned, Bobby Bonds.
Yes. That tugs at both Tito's heart and mine. Bobby was more than a friend. He was a brother to both of us.
You lived there.
And actually, when I was a bat boy with the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1971, both Tito and Bobby became my friends, and when they found out that actually in the late portion of the year that I was homeless, Bobby was inspirational and he brought me to the Bay Area. And so he means a lot to me, and Tito as well. But I mean, Bobby and I spoke about actually doing this book about 5 years before he passed, and my wife encouraged me to go ahead and pursue it with Tito. So without Tito, this book would have never happened.
You've also got several people in the book who weren't actually active ball players, but you've got a couple of umpires in there, one announcer that I'd like to talk about first, Lon Simmons, and also several managers who are Hall of Famers.
Right. You know, that's a great point, Kerry. One of the things that I wanted to bring out in the book was, as I had mentioned earlier, we wanted to protect the legacy of the 60s and the 70s from a personal standpoint. So I thought it was a great idea to take one American League umpire, which was Dave Phillips, and of course Doug Harvey, who's a legendary umpire in his own right. He was actually voted best umpire of the 20th century. So we have, exactly what Tito said. He's a Hall of Famer. So what we wanted to do, we have 2 perspectives from an umpire standpoint, and they're the closest to the players. So it's quite unique.
And then the announcers, we got Mr. Lon Simmons. He's a Hall of Fame, because he can see the game and tell you everything that happened. And also we got Jon Miller, the ESPN, and also he is broadcasted from the Giants, he was elected to the Hall of Fame. So when we started this book, he or Doc Harvey, they were not elected to the Hall of Fame. By coincidence, we interviewed them and they granted, and now they become a Hall of Fame. So they really, we are happy that we anticipate their future.
What a great personality and what a voice, Lon Simmons.
Oh, yes.
I have to ask Tito this question. It's a little bit of an aside, but I saw a program the other day, and basically it was a scientist talking about how quickly you have to react as a hitter to these pitches that come in between 90 and really 100 miles an hour. How do you do it?
Well, at that time when we played so long ago, we didn't have the clock. So we never can tell how hard they're throwing. That was the good thing. So we adjust by saying how the guy is throwing. He's throwing very hard. When we emphasize in the word very hard or extra hard, now we know that we have really to pay attention. But you react. You react, but now you know how hard it is. Now that I'm not in the game, every time I am in the batting practice, I see the ball coming. I react, I say, I know how hard it is to hit a baseball.
One inside question, are all hitters guess hitters?
Good hitters, they guess right. That's what happened. That's why they are so good, because they can guess right.
Ted Williams once said, I think he's the one who said it, is the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a baseball.
Definitely it is.
Okay, back to the book, and please hold it up, Gary. Baseball Legends and Legacies. We're going to take a short break and wrap it up here on American Senior today with Gary Hall, author of the great new book, Baseball Legends and Legacies, and also Tito Fuentes, former star second baseman with the San Francisco Giants. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to American Senior TV. I'm Kerry Glusevich. Today we've been joined by Gary Hall, the author of the great new book, Baseball Legends and Legacies, and also Tito Fuentes, who's the former second base star with the San Francisco Giants and current analyst with the Giants as well. Tito actually came from the sugarcane fields of Cuba, and that is an amazing feat. As I say, he's also an analyst now for the San Francisco Giants. So we're going to talk more about Gary's book, basically some of the umpires that have actually made it into the Hall of Fame, and also some of the great managers who have made their entrance into the Hall of Fame. First, let's talk for a few minutes about Sparky Anderson.
Well, Sparky, as everyone knows, was the great manager of the Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine back in the 70s. And he's a real character. He has some great stories in the book. And he was so congenial and hospitable and, you know, preparing the stories for me to write for him in his chapter. And
another one who was quite a character and very intense, Dick Williams.
Oh boy, you hit it right on the head. Like Tito said, you talk about controversial. The one thing about Dick Williams, almost every time that he made a stop, a managerial stop on the major league circuit, he made a huge impact on that team. He took the Boston Red Sox, which were perennial losers in the 60s, and took them to the World Series against the St. Louis Cardinals, and actually took the Cardinals to the 7th game, where the Cardinals won that 7th game.
Even though the umpires take a lot of flack, sometimes the announcers do as well. There's a couple of announcers you have covered in the book, and also a couple of the umpires. Why don't you mention them?
Well, a couple of the announcers we have, well, we actually have 3 announcers. We have the great Jaime Herrin, who has been a long-time Los Angeles Dodger voice, Hispanic radio. He's an incredible human being, unbelievable as far as his congeniality. But he's the Vin Scully of Spanish radio.
Wow. Sure it is.
And also, then, we'd like to go to a couple of more ball players, which we haven't mentioned. And one of them, 2 of them actually, are 2 of the greatest pitchers that ever came down the pike. Juan Marichal and Vida Blue, who happens to be a very close friend of yours, Gary.
Well, you know, both Tito and I feel honored that they're both in the book, and I think because they both are friends of ours, of course. But you're right. Left-handed Vida Blue was overpowering. He made major league players look like AAA hitters at times. And when he first came up with the Oakland A's, he had a 100-mile-an-hour blazing fastball, amazing curveball, and he had the poise of a 10-year veteran on that mound.
Wasn't he also the last pitcher to win 30 games?
No, he was not. Denny McLain was the last to win 30 games. But what Vida Blue did do that is incredible, in his first year, he won the Cy Young, and he also won the Most Valuable Player award.
And Rookie of the Year.
And the Rookie of the Year. Thank you, Tito.
Unbelievable. Now Juan Marichal, who had quite a rivalry going with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
He had quite a rivalry going with the National League. He was incredible. Juan Marichal was a pitcher that had 5 pitches in his arsenal with 4 different delivery slots. And he could be overpowering at times, but he was a finesse pitcher. But he had pinpoint accuracy. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize about Juan was that his strikeout per walk ratio was about 3.75.
And complete games too.
Oh yeah, tell him about that, Tito.
I got him out of the book.
Yeah.
If I tell it, then the people don't buy the book.
Okay. Tito, I have to ask you, and I know you have a lot of them, what is the highlight in your career that you're really most proud of, over and above the 933 fielding average, which was a record that took a long time to break?
To me, to put the uniform every day, that's the greatest feat that you can have it. And you don't know that till you retire. When you retire and you go to the field, everything that you see, you say, I can do that. But it's just in your mind. Physically, you cannot do it. That's the only thing I did since I was 5 years old. And in the book, it shows some picture when I was 5 years old with the bat. That's all I want. And I went to school because my father told me, if you don't go to school, you don't play. So school was no my desire. I went to school because I was forced to play the game. And when I came to this country, that's the only thing I knew how to do and the only thing I want to do. And every day, going to the ballpark, I was the last one to go out too, because I say the time is not like a doctor. A doctor can be a doctor even before they die. They can be a doctor. But we just got 10 to 15 years to be what we are. And I enjoy every second of it. I enjoy playing against the Dodgers, of course, winning pennants, losing pennants, and all the people that you play, that you see during those years, the umpires. Now we are friends. Now we like each other, the fans, and so many things happen in that game that you got the memory forever.
Kerry, just to sum up the heart of the book for you, the Baseball Legends and Legacies, it really differentiates the 60s and the 70s from other eras. And what made that era so different was because of the huge influx of Hispanic players coming in from the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and all the other Latin countries. In addition, there was a huge influx of black players, and so therefore the highest caliber of baseball was during that period of time.
That's right.
One of the other things that I really believe in my heart that differentiated it was the quality of the people. It was absolutely incredible. I know firsthand because I was a bat boy for the Dodgers and the Giants, and those players took me in, and what I personally witnessed as they treated fans was so vastly different than what I see today. And that's what I greatly respect, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to highlight in this book.
Well, I'd like to thank Gary Hall for bringing us and talking about his great new book, Baseball Legends and Legacies. It's out now and available on Amazon.com. And also, Tito Fuentes, the great former second baseman with the San Francisco Giants and current analyst as well for the Giants. Thank you, gentlemen.
Very pleased.
Kerry, I want to personally thank you for presenting this opportunity. Tito and I feel that it's an honor, and we really are grateful.
Thanks so much, both of you. For American Senior TV, I'm Kerry Glusevich, and we'll see you next time.